Well, it's time for Nancy to address some viewer questions. First, we have one from Christine in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. How do you ship a cake? I have a son in the military.
Probably if you're going to ship it any distance at all, you might want to leave it in the pan, which means I would suggest you don't decorate your cake, but you do something like a pound cake. You could actually put some dried fruit in it, but there are some guidelines on the USDA FSIS website that says they don't want you to send something that's very moist, like a pumpkin cake or, you know, a zucchini cake, because that additional moisture, especially if you're shipping it to an area that's very hot, you can get some mold in it.
And think about how many days it could be in the mail, possibly,
you want
and
to,
then tossed around.
Yes, and you want to send it as fast as you possibly can send it to wherever it's going. But an alternative that might be a little bit better would be to do some cookies. Now, also on the website, they suggest that you not ship chocolate chip cookies. But I think if you have the small chocolate chips, you'd be okay. Something like biscotti, oatmeal, ginger snaps would also work.
And how would you ship these?
Well, I would ship them in a tin, because the one thing I worried about was whether or not you could ship to that location, so your son might want to check out that before you actually ship to them. But it's my understanding you can still ship in tins, because I worried about whether or not they'd want to x-ray it. So I'd put a layer of bubble wrap on the bottom, then lay your cookies in there, then put a layer of parchment or wax paper in between, and then put another layer of cookies on top, because you want to actually keep them from rubbing together and also insulate them from rubbing to the side of the tin. So we'd put the tin on top of that after we put another layer. And there's a variety of tins that you can use. Now, some other recommendations would be if you wanted to send something smaller, there's actually bubble wrap now where plates will fit in. So you could put a couple of paper plates in there, or even some plastic plates. Put your cookies on top of that, and then I would probably put this in a couple of bags. Another thing you can do is actually wrap them individually with saran wrap, wax paper, parchment paper, and then put some additional foil around them so that each cookie is individually wrapped. But
a cookie like a meringue cookie, would you? No. It's going to crumble, right?
It's going to crumble. Anything that's kind of soft would actually crumble.
Anything perishable like custard?
I wouldn't send any of that, because even if it's not going a really long distance, you still have temperature changes like in warehouses.
Okay. The second question is from Tracy in Sycamore, Illinois. I would like to send my father a cake 2,000 miles away. How do you freeze it for shipping, and how do you keep it frozen?
Okay, let me start with, you might want to consider not freezing your cake first and just go ahead and shipping it normally. And you would do that with some cakes that don't actually have their icing on them yet, like that pound cake. So what you could do is, if you didn't want to ship it in the pan, you could have a box that will fit inside a box. So here we have some bubble wrap, and you'd put that down in the bottom. You'd have your cake in this box, and you'd want to put that inside the bigger box, and then put
bubble wrap,
parchment paper, newspaper, something like that, and then actually seal it so it's not shifting. Now, if you really did want to ship a frozen cake, you're going to need to have an ice chest. And in that ice chest, you would put dry ice, but then you'd also have to have another container with your cake in there, and you would want to make sure your cake is absolutely hard frozen, which is a problem sometimes with some people's freezers, so you want to check the temperature of that.
Would you send it overnight at that? I mean, that's going to be really expensive, 2,000 miles away, sending it overnight with the dry ice.
I would, but that's the only way, especially if you have decorations on there. I would keep it very simple, but again, the shifting could also damage the sides of the cake where you put icing. I would actually probably find someone to make a cake in the town and then have it delivered to him.
Something special. Well, good luck, and we hope these answers will help you out.
Next on Ask Nancy, working with fondant.